Excellent.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of February 13, 2023 was included in the list of meetings noticed to the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News on January 5, 2023, posted on the bulletin board at Borough Hall on that date, and has remained continuously posted as required. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the borough, in the office of the borough. Can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Here.
Mr. Long,
Here.
Mr. Parker,
Here.
Ms. Rossetti. Ms. Tilly,
Here,
Mr. Carl.
Here.
I can hardly hear Liz. I don't know.
I heard it
Do something.
Hey, Brian.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Thank you.
Yay.
Well, Liz. We don't have a presentation tonight. I do have a rather lengthy for me report. First of all, I just want to say on behalf of the town, how saddened and concerned we are about the charges brought against one of the council members. As I'm sure the public is aware of what happened, we also sit waiting for more information and anticipate that it'll be forthcoming. If there are any questions or comments from the public about this matter, we'll be turning it over to our attorney to address all of these questions rather than trying to answer them ourselves. To the council, I want to just apologize. My MO is really to let you know at a prior meeting anything that will be coming at the next meeting. And the shade tree ordinance that's on for tonight's introduction kind of snuck on. I did talk to the liaison, Liz Rossetti, about this ordinance prior to it popping on, but it's benign. It increases the amount of members to the full amount allowed by law from 5 to 7. It is coming from the Shade Tree Commission asking for more members. They have more people that want to serve, which is great. If you want it held tonight, because I didn't get a chance to talk to all of you about it beforehand, we'll do that. Otherwise, if it's okay with you, we'll introduce it tonight. Because like I said, it's the only change that's done. The law allows up to 7 members and 2 alternates. We currently have 5 members and 2 alternates. So the Shade Tree Commission asked that it go to the maximum. Just does anybody want it tabled until the next meeting for introduction? Are you okay with it being introduced tonight? Okay, all right, thank you. So I also just want to let you know that Bloomfield Avenue, we're sitting on a grant right now from the DOT to do work on Bloomfield Avenue, which is, as Mr. Parker and I found out last week, is going to be a long-term renovation as the sewer and water lines are done. And then, of course, there's several years left of construction to be done with heavy equipment on Bloomfield Avenue. Remington Burnick is working hard to see if that grant can be moved somewhere else, used somehow else on Bloomfield, or given another delay. Even though, it's coming as grant money, it is still taxpayer dollars, which everybody who lives in this borough as well as in the state contributed to. And ultimately, at the end of the project, the developer is supposed to completely fix that road. The idea that we would do work and fix it while they're in the middle of a project, which is just delay the project and add another layer of traffic on that road, closing that road down, makes no sense. So Remington Burnick is supposed to get back to us and see what the DOT says about that. I just wanted to mention that pre-con meeting, and I'm going to ask Mr. Parker if he wants to make some comments about that too. So Remington Burnick ran the meeting with all of the parties regarding the hotel, as well as Elizabethtown Gas was there to talk about the street closures. This is going to be a massive undertaking of having Bloomfield Avenue closed, sometimes off and on, parts of Main Street closed, one lane, sometimes occasionally the whole street for short periods of time. It's going to go on for 270 days. So whenever it starts, which could be the middle of or beginning of April, we're hoping it's going to be done by Christmas. One of the things that Remington Vernick found was that there are different maps with different parts of this project on it, construction maps. And so they have insisted that there be one red line document, because in their review of all of these different maps, they found that the water line got bid twice. So because they're on two different parts of these maps, one with the redeveloper, one with us. So hopefully we'll be able to say something on that. Mr. Parker, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you covered it. I think that the tagline here is this, it is a massive project. And it's gonna cause some inconveniences, but you know, you have to look at the project as a whole, because by the time you get done with it, we've got a great thing going on here. I will say that the project manager or
Remington Vernick?
Remington Vernick was outstanding. I mean, just really outstanding. He just took control. He made sure everybody was on the same page. He discovered there were some things that people were not connected on in terms of all the other contractors. And it was, I think it was a meeting, and I think everybody will agree that who's there. It included everyone, so everyone had some skin in the game, and everyone got to talk about it. So I thought it was excellent. Yeah, what we have to do, we being the console, mayor, and FCP, and a whole lot of other people, have to really communicate, and over communicate, and that's one of the charters that I'm working with the mayor on right now, is how we're gonna execute this.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. And I should have mentioned FCP was there too. Robin Lapidus was at the meeting as well. Coming up for the next agenda, there's a number of things. It's going to be a very large February 27th meeting. There is going to be an award for Remington Vernick to do the oversight in all these water lines. There is money available in that bond to cover inspection fees, but this is, like I said, it's a massive, complicated is the right word, right, Councilman?
I think so.
Complicated project. So that'll be coming up at the next meeting, and then I'm not sure it's really in conjunction to that, but we are looking to do an ordinance to amend our fees for water connections. We are not charging enough money for water connections right now, so that will be introduced. We have a request from a resident on Kapner Street that we remove a handicap parking space there. The person who was utilizing that space, who had originally requested it, moved out months ago, and so it's sitting there empty now all the time. So we have a request to remove it, and our administrator is checking to make sure that is exactly the scenario, that the person is no longer there. We also have 4 budget resolutions that are, I believe they're actually ordinances, but they're budget resolutions to create some accounts. So the state of New Jersey allows a local government to have some escrow accounts by law, but not a lot. I mean, you can have escrow accounts with line items in your capital budget, but in your operating budget, there's only a few accounts that you can have. They're called dedications by rider. I think there's 5 of them total. There might be 6. We only have 1 right now. And the one that we have allows for an employee fund, so that when somebody retires, our sick and vacation payout is already built into that fund. So if somebody just announces that they're going to retire in a month and it's not in our budget, that they get some kind of sick and vacation payout, we have a little slush fund, so it doesn't impact our budget. So we already have that fund. Bill Hans, our CFO, told me that he thinks that the right number for us to have in that account is $30,000. Right now we have 20,000. So we will be putting that other 10 into the budget to get us up to that number. So that will cover basically 2 people announcing a retirement with no notice or short notice. So that if it didn't get into our budget. So that one we already have. The other 4 that I'm asking the council to approve, which the state allows. And the reason to do this, and I'll tell you up front, is that at the end of a year, anything in our in our budget that wasn't spent gets swept and it goes right into the general fund. These dedications by rider prevent that from happening. It's the only way to stop the general fund sweep and to maintain these funds to keep us, to try to keep our budget as flat as possible. So the other four that we'll be bringing forward to you, one is a dedication by rider for storms. So for instance, we put about $25,000 aside each year for the DPW, for snow removal, for flood damage, for all of that sort of thing. So anything that's left at the end of the year, we can tuck away in a storm fund. So that if we build up that fund enough, and then we want to lower that amount, and there's a blip year, like this year is a unblip year, we have no snow, right? And then we might not blip. And then I have a bunch of these, and then all of a sudden we have a catastrophe of snow or a hurricane. It'll all be sitting there in this escrow fund and we won't be caught off guard. So that's one. Another one is we can do this with our dog license fees so that we don't have to look for money to pay the vet and to pay for the vaccines, rabies vaccines, to send out the letters to people, all that. It can also go into a fund and sit there. Another one covers police overtime, so that when Elizabethtown Gas or whoever is paying the police or paying us, we can put it into that fund. And that way, if the overtime, they're in a big project like last year that's covering into this year. So we didn't have this fund. So anything that they paid us for overtime in advance got mushed into our general fund and taken out. So now we've got to know that it's in there. So this way it could have sat into an escrow fund and waited until those bills came in. And then the fourth one is for unemployment insurance. And that's for, an employee obviously who, perhaps leaves on his own, or we fire and then files for unemployment. Again, if we had a fund, then we've got the funds to cover it and it doesn't get captured back at the end of the year. So those will be coming forward and you'll get a chance to read them. We'll have Bill Hance on the phone on Zoom to answer any questions you might have on those. But it's just really sound budgeting to do that and have those funds so that the money is there and cannot be taken at the end of the year back into the general fund and used for other purposes. We'll also be having a work session next meeting. Remington Vernick, our engineer, will be in with the DPW to talk about the administrative court order that has come down on us about our wet weather treatment facility through the EPA and steps that we need to take to resolve that. And there'll probably be an executive session at the next meeting to talk about shared services where in township under contractual. That's where we are so far for the next meeting. And I just wanted that all on your radar screens. If anybody has any questions about any of those?
I had a question.
Sure.
It might be for Tony or for you. The pre-construction meeting that happened on Friday, specifically Bloomfield. I know that, and we did the resolution for the Union Hotel project on the planning board side. That was already a concern, and frankly, the road was already a mess. So yeah, we made sure that that road was put into the resolution to be fixed afterwards. That was something that was a big concern of ours. I guess my concern is, well, first of all, it's definitely clear that the tires aren't being washed down. And I was wondering during the construction meeting if that was discussed, because as you know well, that there are DEP regulations for that. I had gotten a message from a Spring Street resident that they were extremely concerned. And to be honest with you, I'm, a whole block down Broad Street and I can see it. So I would love it if the next, at the next pre-construction meeting, if you guys could bring that concern to their attention.
We'll just call Remington Vernick and let them know, and they'll let them know.
Right,
Yeah.
as you know,
Let
there's
them know.
DEP regulations.
Right.
They should be washing down those tires, and it's being dragged all over town. And as a result, when dirt and rocks are being pulled all over town, it also damages the roads even more.
Right.
And I think the Bloomfield in particular, you can see the damage even in the last 6 months since the construction's really been going on. So I guess my concern is, how will that Bloomfield is gonna get worse and worse and worse, and in that 270 front days, how are we going to be reassured that it's going to be maintained at least at a minimal level from, through the construction period? Because right now, I think it's already kind of a mine, it's a minefield at this point.
Well-
So was there any discussion?
Well,
about that?
the point of it is Bloomfield is probably gonna be closed.
The
I mean,
entire,
the reality is it's probably gonna be closed, it's gonna have to, because
During a lot.
during the project, because there's no way to do it without doing that.
okay, your report had said it will be closed on
It's
and
gonna
off.
be
So I
closed,
wanted to
it's gonna be
understand.
closed on and off, it'll be
Right.
closed first for water lines or first for sewer lines, but it's a portion of it is gonna be closed, and traffic will be rerouted, part of those. They did say, for a couple of weeks.
Mhm. So I guess when it's on and not
So
off, that's
they-
my concern.
They have to make it, I mean, when the work is all done, there'll be a macadam pour to close up the lines. That'll be a fresh macadam pour, and then the regular construction is gonna totally. I mean, it's not really gonna ever stop. I mean, the contractors also have to come into that site while this other work is going on. There was. Honestly, Councilwoman, Remington Burnick made it really clear, and they said it's gonna be a mess, and they did not use that word. It's gonna be a mess for 270 days. And then when all that sewer water work is finished, the contractor still will have another year to go. So we're just gonna have to see what the roads look like, and he can't be running heavy equipment. I mean, if they need to do something to support their own trucks, they're gonna have to, right? They're gonna have to do something.
I'm just
Whether it's-
talking about temporary fixes on some, when there's a big crater that's developed, because like I said, in the last 6 months, it's gotten a lot worse, just with the trucks and washing down the tires.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that when there's a huge crater and it is on the on portion versus the off portion, that someone's at least responsible to fill the crater.
Fill a
That's it,
crater,
you know.
put on a metal plate or something.
Right,
and say,
we
yeah,
need some-
They actually committed to doing that, by the way.
Good.
They were talking about the metal plates that they would make that.
Yeah.
So that when it is off, and they still have to go back, they're gonna put metal plates, or they're gonna do something to mitigate. The traffic and people concerned about traffic. I mean, I have to say, I've lived in the borough for 6 years, I guess, 7, I think. But I've never seen Bloomfield Avenue as a smooth road. I mean, I just never have seen.
No,
that.
it's never been great, but it's gotten worse over the last 6 months. So I'm just saying, I know it's, I know it is, of course, I'm very realistic. I understand about staging and I have very good understanding about it. I just want to kind of raise the red flag that they need to be aware of that. The other concern I have specifically with Bloomfield, when the planning board did that resolution, they were very, very particular about what point on Bloomfield they were to fix. And we fought them tooth and nail, but I think somebody needs to really double check whether the last, I want to say 20 feet to the apron of Broad Street is covered, because we fought that for a while and the resolution is not clear as to how far down Bloomfield it goes. So I'm putting that as a kind of a warning that somebody needs to follow up on that. There was actually like I want to say there was a marker on, there was some sort of dimension actually noted in the resolution, and it was definitely not something that the planning board was happy with. The other question is this, I know there was a large group of invitees to the pre-construction meeting. I had spoken to a lot of people along Broad last fall. And again, in the resolution, for the planning board, it was discussed at length that there should be some sort of at least one representative of the residents, and I was wondering, were any residents specifically of the streets that surround the site invited to the pre-construction meeting, and how are we gonna, and is there anything in place to make sure that there's some regular communication with them? I know you have that, so we might not have that answer right
I
now.
can tell you there were not, because Remington Vernick did the invitation list.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So there were no residents invited. I'm not sure it's appropriate to invite them to a pre-con meeting, but,
I don't blame you,
I
by raising the red
I
flag
think
that
it
it's
is
something.
appropriate
within
to
the
have them come to something.
Yes, yeah, so maybe have them look at the resolution and come up with some sort of regular communication system, which you clearly said you already have in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I just talked about that, is that
Yes.
we're gonna over communicate. We're working on a plan to put something out as things happen. We're gonna get the schedule. I mean, we've got that covered. We will definitely make sure that all the residents are
Right, but up to
fully
this
aware
point,
of going every step of the way of what's going on.
I'm gonna pull the planning board resolution.
Thank you.
and then
It's in there.
got it.
yeah, I know we talked about it at length, and up to this point, those residents hadn't been, connected with on a
Right.
regular basis, so I'd like to see that happen.
Okay, let me pull the
Because,
resolution.
even though it's a pre-construction meeting, the construction started a while ago. This is
Okay.
just a different phase of it.
Thank
Thank you.
Anything else on my report? If not, we're gonna move to council members' reports.
You start with me.
Yes, Ms. Lee, I was going to. It's a matter of fact.
I just wanted, this is not the updated agenda that you distributed. This only goes to. This is agenda number 6, where the 2 extra OEM ones were added. So I just want everybody to be able to, that you took one here in the audience to have,
I can go print it out.
well, I think you need to, because it was distributed amongst the audience here.
No, I'm sorry, I'll go do that.
Catching that.
On the 14th, I have a DPW meeting. Tomorrow I'll have a DPW meeting. What's that?
You're laughing at you because tomorrow's the 14th.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You're busy.
And my
That's a
fire-
Lorian.
I know. Meeting as well, but that got moved to the 20th. And then on the 15th, I have our HPC meeting. That's kind of it for what it is that I've done, but I do have a couple of questions that I would like answered. I need to know what the procedure is for getting items on the agenda before distribution, because we've had, me and my council positions have had some issues with getting some items on timely. So I don't know if there's been a shift in procedures with new
No,
mayor or
just send them to me, but I haven't
To
been
you.
seeing them, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, they can send to Mr. Humphrey and to me.
and you.
Yeah, because I keep things like this and what's supposed to be going on each
Perfect.
agenda, but if I don't know,
Okay.
like the OEM ones, like if I didn't
Right.
know, then they're not getting on my list, just double check with Mr. Humphrey.
Okay. And then the other question I have regarding the agendas is why are we getting them on Saturdays? It's not giving me enough time to review it fully. Or to I have like no time to ask any questions that come up before the council meeting. And if you're saying that we have a big meeting coming up, the next meeting is gonna be a doozy. I'm gonna need a couple of days to go through this
I think in
agenda.
the case of this agenda, it's because we were waiting for some ordinances that were discussed Wednesday night at the council president and my agenda meeting, and hopefully it'll be not later than Friday going forward, because I agree with you, they should be at least by Friday, and I know Mr. Humphrey would like now by Friday as well, because he doesn't like working on weekends either,
Right.
so
Well,
I apologize for
I
that.
would appreciate that. And then for some reason, everybody's asking me what's going on with the living or half dead wall on the circle. I know that was something that came before me.
We keep asking that too.
I don't know
Okay.
if that's somebody's.
It's nobody's, I can give you an update, it's nobody, this is the problem, it's nobody's responsibility.
Okay.
I had a conversation with our construction officer, Jeff Klein, about it. Jeff Klein said that they have an open permit. That every time anybody says anything, they do just enough work to satisfy that open permit, and then there is an open permit. I do need to have a conversation with our tax assessor, because our tax assessor, under the law, has the right to say something is substantially complete and start making them pay taxes on it. So since it's been sitting there, he can say it's substantially complete. our construction officer has no idea what the holdup is at this point, what, you know, whether it's. Originally, he said he was having trouble getting screens to do the whatever, then it was electric and whatever, and.
Yeah, Mayor,
So-
ironically, or coincidentally, I actually have some perspective on this, that's the Catalyst project.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
so another client of mine is working with them and they say that those curved screens are backordered in China for like years. Cause we asked them why the project wasn't completed, this other
thank
client,
you for asking that.
and we wasn't altruistic, we didn't want to end up with what you have, so. This was before I was on the radar screen for this job, and it was like a year ago. And they said that because those screens are curved at a certain concave angle, which the ones that, if you drive from where I live down here to Marion Township or Reddington, those are straight screens, those are manufactured in the United States. The ones for your circle are concave and are manufactured only in China, and they're like backordered.
Or they're
Same.
floating over the Alaskan,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know more than that, but we did ask that question because it's obviously an eyesore for you guys, and that was
Yeah.
they gave us.
well,
So
then
it's, you know.
we should start getting them taxed as having a. floating.
And that was a year ago, Mayor. I had lost. They still haven't made their way over there.
Well, let me say this, we do have a solution coming. I'm working with the FCP is working with the owner, the whole 9 yards, so I just wasn't ready to deal with that today, but if you can just hold your horses until the next one, I
No,
think we'll have some really good news for you.
Okay, yeah, no, I think just because it hasn't been discussed.
Yeah.
That people are like.
It's been discussed back here.
Right,
We
but
have
not,
no conversation about it.
But,
Yeah, no,
so, and two other things, I know the borough is not hosting their electronic waste recycling event this year, but the county is. They have 4 events. There's a blue flyer in the vestibule. You can grab one, has all the information on that. Next to that is a green flyer that the county is with information on their 2 events for their hazardous waste cleanup. So just make sure the people that are here grab one of each, so you know in advance and timely, because the one is
March 4th.
March 4th, the next electronic one
11th.
is March 11th.
Okay,
So-
otherwise. Right,
And that's it for me, thank you.
okay, and shredded day is 22nd of April after your taxes are due, also by the county. So, okay, thank you, Council President.
Hi, good evening, folks. I have some police news here. So the car burglary task force, Flemington detectives are currently working in conjunction with multiple local agencies and the county in reference to the uptick in car burglaries. As a reminder, please keep all belongings out of view and locked up if they are not in your vehicle, and please report, if they are left in your vehicle, and please report any suspicious activity. Recently, the police department has been getting a lot of reports in reference to phone scams. Please, if you receive a suspicious phone call and they are requesting money, do not send any money to anyone. Confirm it is a real organization you dealt with before. If you are unsure, please contact the police before you send any payments or money. Contact the non-emergency line at 908-782-3434. There's a real emergency, please, of course, dial 911. February 6th, Patrolman Dan Lookner officially resigned from the Flemington Police Department. The department has begun the process for finding a replacement. And as I just wanted to reiterate what the mayor had said, council is sad, incredibly dismayed. We hope for whatever the appropriate closure is on this, and of course, we'll go to Mr. Corsini with any questions. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Parker?
Excuse me, yes, so over the last several weeks, I've been working really closely with FCP. And we've made some great progress. I'm gonna give the floor to Robin to talk about a couple of things, some things that are going on. Before you do that, the one thing I will tell you is that on public information, that is up and we're making some real good progress with that. We're hoping to have the first official newsletter and some changes to the website in April. So the mayor and I have been in some discussions, and we're going to buckle this down, and then I'm going to reach out to the community and reach out to all the departments and make sure that we have something that's very solid. So Robin, can you come up for a second and just talk about the 3 things that we're working on? She should be the one to talk about it since she's the one to do it.
Okay, great. Feel funny having my back to everything, but,
You can see this.
okay, good. I don't know if this is working. Yes. Test,
Yeah.
okay, great. So very quickly, I will speak to the living wall, but please don't shoot the messenger, as the saying goes, because we really are just the messenger. But the owner of the company has reached out to us and they offered us the opportunity to do a very large static sign to get more traffic to Love Flemington, so more people can get more information about our businesses and events. And that is a temporary solution to a curvilinear screen issue that you're absolutely correct, was part of a supply chain, a chronic problem. Curvilinear screens are really complicated and maybe the technology wasn't as fast coming as we'd like it to be.
And we can show what that's gonna look like at the next session, because we do have some designs in of it and we need to run it by console and so everybody can see it.
Did they give you any idea of how long it was gonna
Yes,
be?
so this is temporary. They believe that it's about 3 or 4 more months before the curved screen components arrive so that it will begin working electronically.
Like summer.
Yes. And in addition, they also wanted to address the issue of the living wall and the plants not thriving. So they realize that there's a lot of salt in the soil. I'm sure after years and years of salting the roads and whatever else was going on over there. So they have to fix the salt contamination of the water to balance it out, and they have a way of doing that so that the plants will thrive. So they are addressing all that. I'm sure they would be happy to come and make a presentation about when the screen will be working, but there is a little bit of progress.
And like I said, we'll talk about it next time.
Yes, okay. In addition, our top 3 items to report on are, clearly, we've had a lot of businesses opening and also a lot of movement around town. I just saw that Halo has moved from Turntable Junction to the fabulous corner of Main Street and Central Station. It looks great. Benchmark Lending has moved from Main Street across the street where Kyle Cook Realty was. Chirp moved from Turntable to the beautiful yellow building on Main Street, and Jessica Wallace, who many of you know, who started Chirp, is actually opening another location for a new concept called 3D, and it's a 3D printer business where she teaches kids how to do 3D printing of their wildest imagination, and she'll teach adults as well. And there's just so much new business coming and going. It's really exciting. And then, of course, I think everyone knows that Bread and Culture opened. It was a soft opening that was heard around the county. And he said that he did ask people where they came from. Most of them came from Flemington and Raritan and the surrounding neighborhoods. He did also see some of his customers from West Orange and Morristown and Montclair and Hopewell and Princeton and Ewing and Pennington. So, you know, Paulo is an amazingly hardworking fellow, and I hope that's not bad. And we posted about their opening on Friday morning at 7 o'clock on Facebook. There were 583 likes, which is really a very high number for actually somebody pushing a I like it button. 79 comments of great positivity. Only one person commented that they ran out of bread by the time they got there, which is true.
Which was what time?
like an hour and a half in.
I'm sure they did not anticipate probably we're gonna.
They had a
It
line.
was like a lot.
I drove by at 5 of 9 and there was a line down the building down the street. I said, yeah, I'm not coming.
They have a line, both Saturday and Sunday. And, I did call him today to ask about his future hours, and they are going to be Saturday and Sunday only for a long time. Because his product is sourdough, it's a craft product, he says. They start working on Tuesday morning for the stuff that goes in the oven on Saturday, and it takes that much time. So he's hoping to build up to a Thursday through Sunday hours, but they probably won't be a 7-day business for a long time. And at the same time, Aunt Mary's opened over at the shops, that just every single business location, the historic Main Street, the Stangle area, the shops at Flemington, Rayville with possibilities, getting ready to open over there. Everything was bustling. It was such a great weekend.
Their grand opening is March 4th.
Yes. We are working on our event plans for the year, which we will come before council in March to describe. And we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of different people about what can we do on Main Street, given construction and a lot of other things. And what can we do on Stangle that meets with everybody's expectations? And I think we're gonna have a very solid year ahead.
We did make it very clear during the pre-construction meeting, Robin, you, myself, councilman, and the administrator, that Memorial Day, there's always a parade, Christmas, there's a parade, and Veterans Day, there's a ceremony, and those were sacred days to our calendar.
And that the car show is near and
Well,
dear
talking
to everybody's
about the car
hearts.
show,
And
right?
if, they should be able to button things up for us to
I think they're gonna
continue
accommodate.
life as
I mean,
usual.
they seem very, very willing to accommodate us. I don't think that's gonna be an issue.
Agreed. And the FCP board is having a retreat, which we haven't had since before COVID, to really be able to spend some time making plans for the year and being able to bring those to you. And I did just find out today that we are getting a Jacob Francis Memorial at the Flemington Baptist Church that's being installed with an interpretive panel that explains his role as a free Black man who was involved in the American Revolution and the abolitionist movement, who raised 9 children in Flemington and was a very active member of the Flemington Baptist Church. So the sons of the American Revolution and the daughters of the American Revolution and a few other groups are purchasing this really beautiful interpretive historical panel that will be installed, and we're really excited about it. And that should happen in the next couple of months. And it's Black History Month, and I think it's really important for us to understand our own history and be able to share that with the world.
And it's delightful that the Sons of Liberty and the Daughters of the American Revolution are doing that,
Yes.
because it's their ancestors that were here.
Mhm.
My ancestors weren't, I don't think the council president's ancestors were yet. So, right, so it's, I think that's appropriate and wonderful that they're stepping up and doing that, because there's
Yes.
very robust chapters of both in Hunterdon County.
Absolutely, and it's good, it's a good start to what's happening for the 250th celebration, so. So that's
Thanks,
really
Robin.
my report, thank you very much.
Yeah, anything else, Councilman?
No, that's it. Just as you can see, there's a lot of things going on. We just want to make sure that we get more of the business community involved in what's going on. So I've actually had meetings with several people in the business community, and I think, one of the things is to make sure everything is inclusive. So, we're actually gonna have you speak to a group soon, so we'll talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Engelhardt.
Thanks. Okay, so planning board, we have our regularly scheduled planning board meeting tomorrow. Here, 7 p.m. passed a really nice addition to adult day. So I think that's something that everybody will look forward to, especially in the summer months with some, kind of permanent shade, in the winter months with some, extended outside dining. So I think that'll be a nice addition. That's on the agenda for just a resolution on that. Tomorrow there's completeness only, so it's not a public hearing, just a completeness hearing for Spice Factory. There's a application there. A similar application had come up a few years ago, and this is a new owner and a new designs, but same site. There's a small informal hearing for 18 Parker Avenue, which is Route 12, for a swing set warehouse, and the cannabis stuff that we're going to be discussing later is going to be bounced back down there as well. So that's the planning board agenda for tomorrow. So if you want to hang out with me again tomorrow night, I'll be here, and so will the mayor. And let's see, the other things that I wanted to talk about was, well, yesterday I spent Saturday, I should say, I didn't get to go to the opening of Bread and Culture because I was at the New Jersey League of Municipalities new councilperson training, which was absolutely fabulous. I'm really very thankful to have the opportunity to go. I learned a ton, and I'm definitely hoping to kind of get some of that stuff implemented in my day-to-day work here on council. Specifically, one thing that came up that I really want to stress is, and Mike was really nice enough to, like, next to him this morning, he put it on the website and on the Facebook page right away this morning. The anchor rebates for the state of New Jersey, the deadline has been extended a couple times. The deadline is February 28th. And what amazed me was the person that I talked to about this was with State Senator Zwicker's office. And one of the things that she stressed is the enormous percentage of people here in the borough that are eligible for this. Renters and homeowners. Renters is a $450, homeowners is based on your income, but it's over 40% of our residents are eligible for this. So please, 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 if you haven't filed your anchor and you were a resident of the borough as of October 1st, 2019, you are most likely eligible, and you should definitely check it out and get your application in. It's not that hard. I did it for my own 80-year-old mother, filled out the form. It took very little time. So please take advantage of that. That's money there waiting for you.
Susan, can I just add something?
Yeah,
to that?
please.
Just make sure you have your 2019
Yes.
taxes with you, because you'll need the information off that.
Yeah, it's easy when you have those in front of you because you just plug and chug basically, but thank you, I appreciate that. It's been a few months since I did my mother's, so I didn't really actually remember that. Let's see, schools, kindergarten registration is February 24th is the deadline for that. So kiddos in registered, the forms on the website for our RFIS. You can bring those forms, you can also get those forms at the elementary school foyers as well. So stop by and do that. More importantly, I spoke to the architect of record for both school districts. If those of you don't know my background, I have a long background doing school construction. So I've done a lot of long range facility plans for probably upwards of 100 school districts in the state of New Jersey over the years. And one of the things that I've been disappointed in over the years sitting on planning board was that both school districts have never come to the planning board and given us the courtesy of an update on their long range facility plans. And why was that something that we are interested in? Because anything related to demographics or facilities affects our bottom line in the end, affects their bottom line and our long-term planning as well. So I did ask the architect of record to, when the next time the school districts updated their long-range facility plans, that they give the planning board a courtesy, just like
I had done many times over, give the planning board a call, a courtesy and say, hey, can we give you a 5 or 10 minute update on any issues related directly to the borough. And they said, absolutely no problem. One of the two districts actually will be updating their long range facility plan pretty soon. And then they were already aware of this, but our engineer had also brought it to our attention about the ROD grants that are available. And they're already on it. The architects in this case get the same info as our engineers. So they were all well aware of it, but we're thankful for the reminder. So that's schools, Parks and Rec. Last year, there's a grant that was passed on to our to my responsibility, I guess. It's called a GEPC grant, and I've been working the last 6 months on that grant. And with the transition, I finally got to kind of get it going again. And Kim and I actually met with Ken Deal from our DEP to kind of talk about some long range, and again, long range facility planning. But
DPW.
that's- I'm sorry. DPW, not DEP, DPW. And again, long range facility planning, this grant is specifically for planning. And then the intention with Sustainable New Jersey is once you do your plan, you then get more money to implement that plan. So the first phase, of course, is planning. And Ken had a huge, great list from all of the DPW guys that have kind of collected ideas over the years. They passed that off to Kim and I, and going to be working with the committee to kind of try to implement that that grant now that we've got a good basis. We met back in the fall and then December, and we'll be having another meeting soon. But that was I really appreciate Kim for coming out to that, because it related to both our council responsibilities, and then of course Liz and I had also discussed kind of what we had in mind for parks long-term as well. So will be in the loop on that as well. We just can't have 3 people at a meeting for a quorum. So it was just the 2 of us for that meeting. I mentioned the training, and then finally, I put an application on behalf of the planning board for a grant, which I had discussed with the mayor a week ago, Friday. And it's a small grant, it's only $2,000, but the planning board had updated their master plan in the fall, but they had, we did the parts that we had the budget to do, but we really wanted to add in a sustainability element. And I'm hoping that this money will be given to us to produce that sustainability element. So I will be asking the council to pass the resolution to support that. That's not due till March 27th. So I'll submit that resolution to you guys probably for the next meeting or the meeting after, whatever works for you. And yeah, we'll just cross our fingers that we get that grant. Yeah, that's it. The only other thing is the school meetings, of course, are simultaneous to ours. So they're tonight, both districts, and will be again the next time we have our meeting, they'll have it as well. So, but I did listen to all of the minutes and tapes and stuff, and there wasn't anything, dramatic to report.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
thank you. Ms. Rossetti?
Thank you. Okay, so the only thing I really have to add, everyone's very thorough up there tonight, so great. I was at a shade tree meeting on the 25th January. I just wanted to express my support for the ordinance to increase their numbers. They were a lovely group of people. It's so great to see we have a lot of people willing to put their time in and dedicate to that. The biggest thing they highlighted to me was their Adopt a Tree program. That homeowners can get a tree for free on their front lawn as part of the shade tree program. The form currently online is having an issue. Mike Humphreys is helping me with that. I'm just waiting for some more details from Shade Tree that I will get to him shortly, and we'll get that live again, the form that you can send off of the borough website. Their next meeting is March 8th, 7 p.m. It will be hybrid, both at Borough Hall and virtual for anyone looking to attend. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, administrators report, Mr. Humphrey.
As most of you are aware, a sewer main break was discovered on Spring Street, flooding basements with sewage, causing tens of thousands of dollars in damage, temporary relocation costs for 3 properties on Spring Street. It was discovered that a section of sewer main was removed from the same location of the street that experienced a water main break on December 12th. Which was done by a subcontractor Union Hotel Project. The developer's contractor has committed to repayment of all monies related to the issue. I also want to commend the DPW. They were
Absolutely.
phenomenal. They worked hard to find the source, which was buried 6 feet under, and then spent all night with their crew fixing it. So quite a remarkable team we have. The new police building is right on schedule. The windows are bricked up. The lobby area, interview room, file room, evidence room, detective office, conference room, and the ADA compliant restroom are fully drywalled. And the emergency doorway and exterior stairway that are completed except for the door, which is in order. So tonight's agenda will have considerations for awards for the network and cabling, the building security system, the door and window security film, and the architect's fee for completing phase 1. The borough now has a new phone system, replacing the almost 25-year-old system we have, so you might actually be able to get through, which is nice. Fire inspection notices have been delivered to residential property landlords and inspections are being scheduled. Now, please remember that previously, the borough only required inspections when new tenants were reported by the landlord. So some of these properties have not been inspected for decades. And so I'm hoping that this will help have a safer environment for our tenants to live in. Lastly, lead paint inspections will begin early April. Remember, this is a state mandated program that they've asked municipalities to manage for them. Notification will be sent by mail to landlords next week. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Humphrey, anybody have any questions for Mr. Humphrey on his report?
I have a question on the phone system. Do we know what that cost was? Because we didn't see anything on the new phone system at all.
Yeah, it's in 2 parts. So at first we had ordered the phone system for the new police department, same vendor. And then when our phone system went down, it was determined that it could not be resuscitated. There was nobody who services those phone lines anymore. So the cost came out to be around $5,100 for the entire system, which includes the DPW and
Oh, that's not bad.
this facility.
No, my gosh.
It's a VIA system. It's fully digital, cloud-based. And I can actually hear people when they talk to us.
So I'm sorry, so the system, the system that we're actually approving for tonight for the police actually also cover the town hall? Did I understand that right?
No, the phones were covered in last year's
Oh, okay, I understand.
expenditures.
There was a low voltage on here, so I was
Well, we
assuming
didn't-
that was in the same
didn't-
level. Yeah,
no.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Public comment, this is our first session on public comment. If you have any comments, please come up to the microphone, state your name and your municipality for the record, and go ahead, Ms. Stewart. I still need your name and your municipality for the record.
Lois Stewart, Wilmington Borough. I wanted to ask Mayor, you talked about these new accounts that are gonna be set up to preserve access to funds
Mhm.
at the end of the year. What impact do you anticipate that that's going to have on our tax rate in the borough?
So they won't have, setting up these escrow funds won't have any impact on the tax rate at all, because there's no funds to put into any of them now, because anything left over from last year was already swept into the general fund. So this establishes them so that we can have them at the end of the year so the license money, for instance, anybody who takes out an animal license now, it will go into the fund, right? But nothing's being put into those funds other than if we have the extra $10,000 to put it into the fund for for employees who are retiring. But we already have 20,000 in that already, because that fund has been established. But you don't, how do I explain this? This money, the monies that go into the fund are at the end of the year, rather than them getting swept into from the general fund, back into the general fund and losing access to them. They can, whatever's left, so if we have no need for storm money this year, and there's $25,000 in the budget, then a decision could be made to put 10 into that fund, or 15, or all 25, and to put something in there in case it's a bad year next year, so we don't have to pull extra money out of a budget when it wasn't budgeted for.
So just a way of conserving money.
Right, exactly, rather than it being swept back into the general fund, it's a way to capture that money and carry it forward so that we can build up some funds. It just creates a better, flatter budget process.
Thank you. The second question I have is, when is the borough yard sale?
It's usually, wow, we haven't talked about that.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up tomorrow at the DPW meeting, because we usually coordinate the bulk pickup the week after. So,
Stay tuned for an announcement on February 27th,
So you'll know next.
We
week
will.
when the borough, okay.
and we'll be
then-
doing some actual advertising, I hope, right, Mr. Parker?
Then the third,
I hope so.
I wanted to know, where is this sign being put for Mr. Francis?
I don't know. In the area of the burial grounds.
Well, are you coordinating?
I'm
that
not the coordinator, I'm just the messenger.
Well, who is going to share with the?
It's not a borough project, that's a Baptist church project, and the DAR and Sons of Liberty project, but we can find out.
Well, I'm on the board of trustees for that church, and this is the first time I've heard anything about it.
Oh, that's interesting, okay,
That's why I'm asking what's going on.
not a borough project, right,
with the borough.
at all.
So I would
First
like,
time we heard about it too.
I would like to know something about it, because we're having a meeting on Thursday night, and there's nothing on our agenda about a sign. I mean, I am delighted, because I think there should be attention made to this man who served in the Revolutionary War, and you know, and the church is actually built on a site where his house was. So,
you'll have lots of questions for Thursday then.
pardon?
I said you'll have lots of questions for your meeting on Thursday.
Now I wanted to have some answers. And then, where do we go for this anchor program that was mentioned? And I know about it, and I know it was extended until February 28th, but when you said about submitting your forms,
Did you not get one in the mail?
I don't have a form, I have the thing that they sent for the old program.
So did you get an announcement? It came out months ago, the Anchor program, and it gave a website address to link into with a code number.
But I got the impression that,
It's on the Division of Taxation's website.
I think what you're asking is, you need your 2019 New Jersey tax return. So that's the form you need.
but can I do it by phone, because I don't have it?
I have no
You
idea.
can, if you want to give me a minute, I just submitted mine 2 days ago. I have the form and I can give you the phone number.
There
Great,
is,
thank you.
the answer is yes, you can go through the phone, the information's, and Liz will give you that phone number. You have, from what I understand, you have to be patient, there could be a long wait. But yeah, be diligent and make sure that you get through and talk to somebody before the February 20th. But I do want to make it clear, there's a difference between the anchor and this is just in general for everybody, not necessarily just for you, but there's a difference between the anchor program and the homestead rebate. So you're eligible for both in all likelihood.
I
So
didn't know that the homestead rebate was continuing. I thought the anchor was.
That should be-
it did, but you mentioned that about last year. So if you had, if you had done that in the past, this is different than the homestead rebate.
But Lois, you have your pen ready, Liz has the phone number.
Yes,
I've got it. So the toll-free number is 877 658
yes.
2972.
2972,
Yes.
thank you.
But is the homestead rebate program continuing or is the
No.
Amber program taking the
No.
place of? it?
No, I just wanted to distinguish between the two because the
That's
website
not-
makes very clear that this is different.
Yes, okay, thank you. Oh, and when you get to all these resolutions that are listed here, I hope that you might give a couple of sentences of explanation so that the public would have a better idea of what they are.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Bill Renz, Flemington. Two questions. First is the accounts that you were referring to, that Lois was referring to, are they gonna be allowed to be rolled over the following? upcoming
That's the
years?
point of them,
That's the
yes.
point.
That is exactly that's exactly it.
That sounds like a good program.
And so we can build up some funds in those, especially that snow removal, storm removal.
Makes a lot of
Fine.
sense. I was here last month about the North Place one way and the construction. I understand they put the construction aside. I'm gonna still ask that you all consider not to leave North Place as a one way. And the reason being is in 1987, my son was almost killed on that intersection, okay? And I came before this council because there's no crossing guard there. When the car came down Thatcher's Hill, let's say the west side, which is North Place to Corcoran, he didn't stop, and I just came to the council and asked, is there any way that bus service could pick up the children on our side? Since those years in 1987, my kids are obviously all grown up, and we now have new children on the street. On both sides, and the children are picked up by that bus on this side. No crossing guard is required, even though there's one on Allen Street, you can't have a crossing guard at every location. I'm gonna ask one of three things and leave it up to the council to make the final decision. One, either they change the direction going towards Parkland. Two, leave it as you all have said it, or the previous council has said it. The problem with that is I foresee that if somebody's ever hurt going towards Hunter Hills, which a lot of traffic goes into the apartment complex. I'm only using Hunter Hills as that particular area, but both complexes. And I'm wondering if there's any liability down the road if somebody is injured, because the council has decided to change a street that's been for years, both directions, or leave it as it was, both directions. But I've taken a poll of some of the people there, and some like it one the way it is, some like it. I like the option of going away from the incline in the snow season, and as we discussed this year, we don't know with the snow. But going down that hill, I guarantee you, when we get the snow season, you're gonna slide right down on the North Main. So I wish you'd all reconsider it and maybe leave it as it was, a two-way street. You have the volunteers that use the street, you have the garbage pickup comes both ways. I understand the garbage services come here, presented their story about picking up the garbage. I don't know what else to say. I'm just asking the council to reconsider and maybe change it back to what it was, a two-way street. We've all worked together and there's really not much traffic. If I had to make a final decision for y'all, I would say change it the other way because you're keeping it from going towards where the children are when they get on the bus in the morning. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Renz. Anybody else from the public?
Jen Ock, Flemington Borough. Good evening, members of council, mayor, and public. As you most likely know, I am here tonight to ask council to act by removing James Weintraub from Flemington Borough Planning Council on board. Multiple community members have also shared their concerns with me and with all of you by attending other meetings, writing to you directly via email, and signing the petition for his removal, which has nearly 100 signatures. We call for Weintraub's removal due to his violation of the Planning Board Code of Ethics. Under the 2013 New Jersey Revised Statutes, Title 40, Municipalities and Counties, Section 4055G-23, Planning Board Membership, Statute 14B states that any member other than a Class 1 member, aka a member of council or mayor, after a public hearing, if you request one, may be removed by the governing body for cause. Although the statute does not outline the specifics of the process of this removal, perhaps our attorney can provide some enlightenment on that.
Removing a member from the board is possible with established cause. To establish cause, let us review section A of the planning board principles code from the American Planning Association entitled Principles to Which We Aspire. Number one, people who participate in the planning process shall continuously pursue and faithfully serve the public interest. Two, examine our own cultures, practices, values, and professional positions in an effort to reveal and understand our conscious and unconscious biases and privileges as an essential first step, so we can better serve a truly inclusive public interest, promoting a sense of belonging. People who participate in the planning process shall work to achieve economic, social, and racial equity. Weintraub and others have attempted to characterize these objections to his placement on the planning board as petty partisanship and political divisiveness. However, pointing out a clear pattern of problematic and hurtful behavior and asking for accountability for the damage he has done to his community is not pettiness. With regard to the comments he made directly regarding my pride flags, would other flags have been an issue? I'm certainly not the only resident in the borough with lawn decor, but I see no complaints about others. If I had covered my home in the US flag or decked it out in Eagles decor for the Super Bowl, I doubt that what I put on my lawn would be a talking point. Complaints were made specifically because they are pride flags representing the LGBTQIA community. Whereas Weintraub may not be the only person in town who has taken issues with the rainbows, certainly has loudly made his opinion about them known. Weintraub has also made other discriminatory comments towards the LGBTQIA community. In comment read to previous mayor Driver, he taunted her by asking if she was born a man, woman, or both. These comments are extremely disrespectful to intersex people and simply uncalled for in any context. Weintraub has also made several comments about Caitlyn Jenner, an openly transgender celebrity, including telling Chris Runyon, chair of the Environmental Commission, to grow a set like Caitlyn Jenner. Among other comments, he has also posted memes referring to Rachel Levine, the U.S. Assistant Health Secretary, as a fat guy in a dress. Weintraub's bias against the LGBTQIA community, especially transgender people, is clear. Regardless of Weintraub's statements directed at me personally, Weintraub has a history of rude, inflammatory, and often discriminatory comments towards several groups, not just the LGBTQIA community. They're referring to homeless people as vagrants and engaging in conversations where any person of Latinx descent is referred to simply as illegals. Weintraub has spoken poorly of many of our neighbors and community members. When arguing with others online, Weintraub is quick to insult others, calling them petty names such as ignorant imbeciles. Additionally, Weintraub is often trolled commenting from the United Post, commenting on essentially any and every post regarding local government and development projects in the borough in order to post accusations about previous Mayor Dreyer and her hand-picked council. Weintraub has continually referred to the member of council as Betsy's acolytes and bureaucrats with no vision, who will rubber stamp anything but Betsy Driver pushes down our throats. Please note that these are all direct quotes. He has also continually referred to any organization, program, or policy he disagrees with as either socialism, Marxism, or communism, with no real distinction between any of these philosophies. Additionally, Weintraub has claimed that the FCP is a socialist organization, and that efforts such as the community garden are useless virtue signaling that are being carried out for the far left agenda. While others are working on building up the community, Weintraub has been online trying to break it down. Active years of continually attacking council and berating their every move, Weintraub only wants a seat at the table. I'm of the opinion, however, that that seat should be earned. That seat should be earned by someone who has made efforts to improve our community and has shown a willingness to work with others, regardless of their particular beliefs and identity, to make Flemington a better space for everyone. Unfortunately, given Weintraub's long history of attacking others, I do not think that he is what Flemington needs. We can do better than this. The issue at hand is greater than just Weintraub. This is about respect for others. Respect. Something that unfortunately seems to be sorely lacking in Flemington. Weintraub is among one of many individuals that I have seen demonstrating the same patterns of disrespect, downright hate for others. When I put up my pride flags, I put them out as a welcome mat. I want others to know that they are safe, to be who they are and here in our community. Cis or trans, straight or gay, black, Latinx, or white, all of us deserve to be safe in this community. Regardless of our political views, I think all we want is a place to call home. We want a space for our families to grow and grow roots, for small locally owned businesses to come and flourish, for artisans and artists to share their works with us, and for there to be plenty more events on Stangle and Main for the community to come together. However, we can't have that when those chosen to represent us do not seem to appreciate those ideals and spend their time building walls rather than a bigger table for us all. In all, I call on not just council and mayor, but the community of Flemington to do better. Let's work towards making Flemington a place that's better for everyone. At least that's what I intend to do.
Regarding your request, the council president and I will have a conference call with our attorney and discuss what the law is. And whether or not the council wants to proceed on this. Anybody else from the public? Yes, sir.
Hi there. I haven't seen you in a while, it's very nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. I just need your name and your municipality for the record.
My name is Tim Hester, I live on Benell Street. And well, you said everything I wanted to say about this. So I'm just gonna play a quote from Rod Sterling that says everything. I want to say that also. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
James Weintraub, Flemington Borough. I didn't prepare a diatribe, but I just want to point out to the council that Jay Hoff, who's accusing me here, for her to say that is just beyond the pale.
Jay uses they them
This-
pronouns, and I think you know that.
Please, this is
Hey,
comments.
comments, please.
This is an individual who is as divisive as anyone in the community. As far as our communication, Jay Hoff started an interaction with me, someone I don't know, have never spoken to in my life, by assaulting me verbally, calling me a disgrace, among other things. Never spoke to Jay in my life, have no idea who they, them are, their sexual orientation, anything. My comments on her home were simply as a resident who takes care of my home and my neighbors' homes and sees an overgrown, farcical display, overgrown, never maintained. Now, by the way, she's assaulting me personally and has a sign of my quote. Never has she ever, in any circumstance, taken verbatim what the discussions were. Yes, especially around time of election, especially some of her associates and that of the former mayor were very aggressive and continue to be. As I saw recently, Jay Hoff was actually calling somebody, inferring they were racist on Facebook. And I think we all saw that as well when it just wasn't the case. This is the kind of race baiting and the kind of division that our town absolutely does not need. And that is exactly what I was reacting to. It is
You have any
seeing that hate.
Please,
No, because I'm not a petty person and
please,
I'm not
just
taking
counsel.
screenshots and mincing people's words and it's ridiculous. So I would like to see them produce something that actually shows something more than snippets of what was said, what they can try to portray. I've never assaulted anybody personally, never gotten in trouble, never even kicked off Facebook. You know how easy it is for some people to get kicked off Facebook or banned? Never happened, never been banned, never said anything. overtly that would get me kicked off. So obviously, this is something completely manufactured. It's a personal assault on me and my family because of politics. And it's disgusting. And it's extremely divisive. I was actually prepared to, if appointed, serve on council with Jay and put this aside. Or whatever, maybe environmental commission, but this is really sad and sorry. And I really want to thank many people who've come out because they see through the lies and they see through this and they feel bad for me personally. And it's a hard thing to put yourself through, especially for a voluntary position. And that's really all I have to say.
Anybody else from the public have any comments? Seeing none, we're gonna move on the agenda. There'll be another comment period after the work session. We have a motion to approve the January 9th, 2023 council meeting minutes.
Tilly will move.
Second, hold on a second.
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
I didn't.
Yes, yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Clerk Administrator, can you please read the consent agenda titles?
Resolution 2023-49, authorizing the participation in Hunter County Co-op pricing system bid for electricity supply. Resolution 2023-50, authorizing the renewal of taxi licenses for 2023. Resolution 2023-51, appointing Kenneth McCormick as fire official and as fire subcode inspector. Resolution 2023-52, appointing Dave Giuliani as property maintenance officer inspector for 2023. Resolution 2023-53, raffle license for the PTO Reading Fleming Intermediate School for a date of March 2nd, 2023. Resolution 2023-54, authorizing an application to join AARP's network of age-friendly communities and the World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly cities and communities.
Thank you. Does anybody?
And sorry,
Wait,
there's more.
just-
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
It's on the end. Yes, sorry.
Resolution 2022-63, appointing local emergency management council 2023. And resolution 2022-64, appointing local emergency planning council
Thank you.
2023.
Does anybody on council want any of these items removed from consent?
I just have a question. Are we using a 2022 resolution number? With those two last few need to be 2023.
This, I'm sorry, again, it is that typographical error. I was rushing to get this on the agenda on Saturday, late
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon, so
That's
I
fine.
apologize.
So that's fine. So there'll be 2023.
They're 2023, yeah.
2024.
Mayor, could, I don't really have any discussion, I just would like a little clarification of what 2354
Then
is.
we're pulling that because this is consent.
Okay,
So
yeah.
anybody else want any discussion on anything?
I'm just curious. if
Okay,
anything else-
can I get?
Thank
can I
you.
get
Do you want to pull?
Yeah, she's pulling.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I'm pulling off out of consent.
I just
Can I
wanted
get
to
a
hear about-
motion to adopt resolutions,
So consent agenda.
49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 63, and 64?
Tilly will move.
Along with second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Passed.
So Ms. Engelhardt, you had a question on 2023-54. Can I have a motion to approve?
Tilly will move.
Is there a second
Along with second.
discussion?
I'm just asking for just a little explanation on it, because that was one of the things that was, that I didn't know about, but I think it is really.
So AARP has a grant that we could go for. Or,
Use the microphone.
I'm sorry, yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, okay, so AARP has a grant that we need to go for, and it's really geared towards senior citizens. And it's about a walking community, walking and safe community. This has been brought up several times, and for some reason, no one went for this. I read it and talked to Robin about it, and I think it's something that Flemington needs to have to pay attention to our senior citizens and make sure that there is a place for them that is safe to walk, and a place for them to safe to gather, and a safe place for them to go to. So this would help us to get to that point with no money out of the borough's pocket, because we'd be going for a grant to get that done. That's what it
Thanks,
is.
Mr. Parker, for explaining that. Any other questions on this or discussion?
I just, you had said that it has been raised several times, I met last, I didn't
I
know.
don't know when, I just know that it's been raised several times, so that, I don't want to get into that. The point of it is that we're going to go for it now.
Great, well, if it relates to walking in safe communities, you know, anything the planning board can do to help, that, you know, we're happy to do so.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Passed.
Thank you. All right, we're up to ordinances. We have two public hearings tonight. So the first one, public hearing ordinance 2023-01. Amending the Borough of Flemington Code of Ordinances to repeal chapter 19 flood damage prevention, to adopt a new chapter 19, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator, and providing for severability and an effective date. I do know that our engineer from Remington Vernick is supposed to be on the line. Our floodplain manager from Remington Vernick is supposed to be on the line. If there are questions from the public, can I have a motion, please, to open up this to a public hearing?
Long second.
All right, the public hearing is now open. Anybody who have any comments or questions regarding this ordinance that conforms us to the state of New Jersey and to FEMA's new stormwater regulations? This is required by the state of New Jersey because we are a community under NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program.
What are the basic things?
I need your, again, Ms. Stewart.
How is Stuart Flemington Borough? Just could somebody explain in a few sentences what this is all about?
So in a few sentences, after Hurricane Ida happened, Superstorm Ida, whatever you want to call it, because the payouts after Sandy, Ida, Floyd, and Irene, FEMA has taken a harder stance on flood and storm management, including stormwater, making sure that there's enough stormwater drainage and holding areas. And so they've adopted new federal guidelines, which any state that accepts money from FEMA, which New Jersey does, following a storm has to comply with. They can make it more severe, but not less severe. New Jersey always makes it harder. So anything that FEMA requires, New Jersey has added to that. We are adopting it as is with the state. This town can also make it harder than the state, but we are not. It requires larger storage basins. It requires us to name a floodplain manager on record who is certified, which we are doing in this ordinance through Remington Vernick. That new plans that come through the town will be reviewed by a floodplain manager if they are in or near a floodplain, make sure they comply with all of the new building restrictions and requirements. Particularly regarding storage of storm water.
So this will affect new development.
It will affect existing structures if they want to build additions or replace, and they are in the floodplain as well. But those laws were already in effect. Prior to this, the borough's ordinance, I'm not sure, was up to speed because there was an amendment that was required 2 years ago, and I do not know if the building did it or not. So if you are in the floodplain and you want to replace your deck in the floodplain, you're going to have to comply to whatever state is requiring and FEMA is requiring. And it will have to be reviewed by a floodplain manager.
Can I add to that,
Sure.
Marcia, if you don't mind? Lois, we discussed that this is one of the questions, your question about how it affects existing proposed developments was something that the planning board questioned as well, when we were asked to review this ordinance. And we specifically asked our planner and our engineer, can you hear me? We specifically asked our planner and engineer that, and their response to us is the development areas are responsible for the same requirements as they always were, the flood ordinance, any flood requirements by DEP that they were required to do before, it's essentially the same. So this ordinance doesn't change at all what they're already required to do. It's no worse or no better. It's no more restrictive or less restrictive than what they're required to do now.
So for instance, the development that's coming on the old Agway store property, when that plan was reviewed, because that is a floodplain there, that was taken, this was taken into consideration at that time.
That was my understanding by the.
Yes, however, the DEP is in process or just approved last week, I'm not sure which, approving all new regulations for permitting. So any of these subdivisions that now require permitting are going to fall under all the new rules. If they had applied last year, it would have been under the old rules.
So that would apply then to the development at Liberty Village.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily like directly related to this, in that the DEP rules were changing and all the developers knew that way back when. Like that's not any new news to them. They were assuming that they were to be designing their proposals.
They need to
accordingly.
get,
They haven't gotten their approvals yet. That's
no,
on
they
them,
need to get a DEP permit.
and that's on them.
So if they need a special permit, because of where they're building, proposed building.
That makes sense.
Anything else? Any other questions from the public or comments from the public under the public hearing? If not, can I have a motion to close?
Is there anybody,
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any, is anybody raising their hand? Michael? I'm assuming.
No, ma'am.
No, okay. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-01?
Almost second.
Any questions or comments by the council? Can I have a motion, can I have a vote, please, roll call vote, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly,
yes.
pass.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing, ordinance 2023-03, amending the code of the Borough of Flemington, repeal or amend conditions for cannabis retailers and cannabis cultivators locating within certain districts. This is the public hearing, just.
It needs to be motion. And then we,
Right, just so this, right, so this eventually will repeal allowing sales downtown in our business 1 and 2 districts, as well as in the village artisan district, and locate all cannabis sales onto highway commercial with highway access. Can I have a motion, please, to open up the public hearing or to table?
Engelhardt moves.
Which one? Are you tabling?
oh, it's just, you're bringing. it
I
up
thought
for
we had to
discussion.
bring it for discussion.
You bring up for discussion, then we can vote.
Okay,
Isn't that
but it's a
right?
public hearing, so,
Right, we're bringing it up for public hearing.
okay, so I'm
And then-
having a public hearing.
Right.
Okay,
I have-
Tilly, a second.
thank you.
Thank
The
you.
public hearing is now open
Now somebody can
immediately.
immediately.
Yes, I move to table this.
Okay, we're tabling, okay, we have a
Do you
motion
need
to
a second?
table.
You need a motion to table.
I move to table this item
Okay.
for the next meeting.
Or definitely.
No, we just.
Oh, and
Yeah.
you want to.
Right, sorry for the confusion.
Do you need a second to table or?
Yes, need a second.
Tilly, a second.
You need immediate vote.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker.
Yep. Yes.
Ms. Rosetti. Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
So this doesn't happen very often, and I apologize for all confusion, just so the public understands what's going on is, this ordinance has a structural deficit to it, where part of the ordinance was not complete. So we are tabling it indefinitely, and we are introducing a new ordinance to replace it, that fulfills basically what the deficit was, we have both medicinal sales in this town as well as retail sales in the town, and it did not cover both of those. So we wanted to make sure that that loophole was closed, and so we're introducing a new ordinance tonight. And so
Which
there'll
is
be,
why the ordinances are a little out of order.
yes, we apologize for all confusion. It is not because we went to Aunt Mary's. So,
We're gonna need to go to Aunt Mary's.
okay, can I, so that's been tabled indefinitely. Can I, let me see, we have an introduction of ordinance 2023-04, amending the code of the borough of Flemington to repeal or amend locations within certain districts for cannabis retailers and cannabis cultivators. This replaces 2023-03. Can I have a motion to introduce?
Engelhardt moves.
Is there a second?
Billy,
Anybody want to discuss this?
not now.
Seeing none, can I have a motion to introduce?
We just did.
I'm sorry, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes,
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes,
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Okay, the
Okay,
public
public hearing will be
be
on February 27th.
and it'll be up on the planning board tomorrow.
It will be on the planning board agenda tomorrow. Okay. Can I have a motion, I'm sorry, introduction of ordinance 2023-02 requiring local cannabis establishment and clarifying section 2609-1 of the Borough Code regarding the limitation of number of cannabis cultivators and retailers permitted in the borough.
Jillian will move.
Okay, is there a second?
Long second.
Can I have any, is there any discussion on this? To discuss this at our last meeting? To make sure that we don't have locations all over town.
Yes, at that meeting, there was discussion, there was the question, which is why we moved it, about how many
Right.
licenses were available.
Yeah,
There were
let's
only-
clarify this.
Yeah, there were only 2 retail licenses, no matter the type, and there were only 2 cultivator licenses, no matter the type.
Right, okay. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes,
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
yes,
Ms. Rosetti.
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Okay, the ordinance passes and the public hearing will be February 27th.
and we'll hear that and we'll see that.
And we'll
at the
also be in the
board
planning board tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Right. Ordinance 2023-05, amending chapter 7A, section 7A-6A, schedule 6-A, entitled Stop Intersections in the Code of the Borough of Flemington. This ordinance establishes a 3-way stop sign at the intersection of Church and Brown, where we have numerous complaints about people racing through at high rates of speed at this time to avoid the Flemington Circle. Can I have a motion to introduce?
Long move.
Jillian will second.
Can I have a roll call vote?
I have we discussed?
Usually don't, but you are sure.
No, I just
We're
have,
gonna-
I don't want Vanilla and Shields as well.
So at this point, I do not have a recommendation
Okay.
from the chief that it's warranted.
And then I just want to make sure that, because on this ordinance that we received, I'm assuming all these are a stop sign shall be,
If
it just
that,
has an eye or,
that's the list, and then the last one is the last edition, which is
Right.
this.
but it's not complete in the verbiage on the, it's like it cut it off, like it stops.
You just cut it off on the paper.
Yeah,
Because the copy I read actually had all. of them.
see,
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it was all cut off on the right side there.
so I'm
Oh, that's
just, I
weird.
just wanted to confirm that it does say stop signs shall be installed at
Yeah.
Brown. Is this just a Brown?
Yeah. Brown, yeah,
But it's a sign, so is it,
that's weird.
we're doing 2 stop signs or just 1?
It's supposed to be 2 signs. It's supposed to, because right now there's only 1 sign at Brown Street and nothing either east or westbound at Church.
So then
They're gonna
these
be-
should be, stop signs should be installed on Church Street, not Brown
Maybe it's
Street.
backwards. Maybe I got it backwards. Who wrote
I
it?
didn't write it.
The chief wrote it?
No,
Who submitted
I believe,
My champion submitted it?
yeah, but
If somebody can just
I
verify
received it
that.
from the chair.
We'll verify it for the public hearing,
I
absolutely.
received from Mr. Parker.
Yeah, okay, we'll we'll make sure it's accurate for the public hearing.
Thank you.
Because that would be a substantial change
Yeah.
too, if it's wrong, so.
I have a question, when you're ready.
Ready?
Here's the
The,
microphone.
can you hear me now, Lois? Okay, I have a question, specifically about the location on Bloomfield and Spring.
No, those, you gotta hold off on that comment.
Oh, is this introduction?
Yes,
Okay, so this goes to the planning board as well?
it's not that kind of change. Now, the planning board doesn't have to review traffic signage.
Okay, I guess that's what my question is, does it, about it affecting,
It's just adding a sign. It is a stop sign.
I understand that, but it affects the redevelopment area in that one location.
I think that's already on, those other, the way I understand it is that the only one that we're voting on is the one that's in bold and underlined.
Yeah.
All the other ones are existing.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
It's just the Church Street and Brown Street.
Correct.
I'll read to you what, I'm sorry,
I'm
cut off,
confused.
it was the way it printed. It states that stop signs shall be installed on Church Street and Brown Street, and it says signs, not sign,
Right.
signs.
That's correct.
So that's correct.
Right. Because there's, yeah.
Thank you.
I'll make sure when it comes to public hearing, the whole thing is printed so we can read it.
Yeah.
And I'll put it
Okay.
out in advance so everyone gets a chance. I don't want it.
All right, I'll hold my questions and comments till then. Thank you.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes. Okay, the public hearing will be February 27th. We have introduction ordinance 23-6, amending chapter 19 flood damage prevention, section 19-4, administration of the municipal code of the borough of Flemington to establish permitting fees within areas of special flood hazard. This establishes our rate that will be charged to anybody getting a permit review by the floodplain manager. So it will work exactly the way a construction permit works. You come in for a new deck and the construction officer gets a permit fee. If you are in or very close to the floodplain, you will also be charged a fee for the floodplain manager to review your application. If it's a major application, it turns out to be more work, there is a second fee. This establishes those fees so that it is not the taxpayers in general that are paying for that service, but the user directly is paying. Can I have a motion to introduce?
Long will second.
Okay, should I ask for discussion? We don't need to do that in introductions. Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Thank you. It passes a public hearing February 27th. Introduction of ordinance 2023-07, amending chapter 2, section 2-2 entitled Shade Tree Commission to adjust the number of commission members from 5 to 7. That says it all. Can I have a motion to introduce?
Parker second.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Thank you. The public hearing will be February 27th. Resolution 2023-55 awarding contract for security window and door treatment for 200 Main Street. Can I have a motion to approve?
Long will second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Sorry, 1 second.
Sure.
Is that the police station?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes. Thank you. Resolution 2023-56 awarding contract for network cabling and infrastructure for 200 Main Street, also the police building. Can I have a motion, please? And second,
Long will second.
roll call, please.
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2023-57 awarding contract for access control and CCTV system installation for 200 Main Street, also the police building. Can I have a motion, please?
Long will second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2023-58 approving services of SSP Architects for 200 Main Street.
Still your move.
Long second.
I have a clarification on this one.
Sure.
Mr. Humphrey said earlier in the meeting that this was for phase one of this,
Yes.
it's actually not, it's for phase two for their,
Is it for phase two?
yeah, that's exactly what the proposal says, and I can tell you, they've done a lot of the work that they've already, that they've already been working on for this phase. So it's almost retroactive.
One also.
It says.
Well, it's,
It says phase one in their proposal. They said that it said, the proposal says they completed phase one and this is for phase two.
there's a, I believe you're correct, but this is not for the design of phase two. What this is there's a transitionary period. There are things such as the
Right.
generator, there's the design of the exit gate in the
Right,
back.
right.
There's also design of the issue regarding blocking off the second floor, the bottom floor from the top floor and making it operate. So we exhausted the funds, the design funds in 2022 as phase one went to bid. Or went to bid, but was awarded. So, but there's still need for both the phase one, which is fully designed, but the transitionary period of phase two. We have no plans for phase two. There's no solid plans that we can go to bid with. There's no specs on it. But we needed to do that for things like being able to run network cabling, being able to put the window film on the doors and the windows down.
Have our CFO put the money in our budget for this?
Yeah, in total, there was $412,000 that had been set aside, of which 420 some thousand dollars, of which $312,000 was set aside for the for Murray Construction to actually do the construction work. Which left a little bit more than $100,000 left for things like the network cabling, the film, the security, the design work and so on.
I just had a lot. We have a motion and a second on this yet, to have this discussion.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Parker, you look like you have a question.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I'm good. No, I
Okay.
remember all of this.
Did anybody else have any other
No, I have
discussions?
I didn't think that Murray Construction had the proper documentation to do the work.
That was March.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Wrong man.
Anybody else? Ms. Rossetti, anybody else have any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes,
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes,
Mr. Rossetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2023-59, authorizing annual fees for lead-based paint inspections in accordance with chapter 9, section 9.5.11 of the Borough Code. This sets an administrative fee for apartment units that have multiple house dwellings that need lead paint inspections per state law. This is the new law in the state, and the paperwork is consuming. So the state of New Jersey requires a fee for them and allows us to charge a fee for ourselves. We discussed this at our last meeting. Can I have a motion to
Tilly Love.
is there a second?
Long the second.
Any discussion?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Does this apply for interior and exterior or just interior?
Just interior.
it's
Thank you.
interior right here.
I was more saying it for the benefit of the public. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes,
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes,
Ms. Rossetti,
Yes. Yes.
sorry, Ms. Tilly.
Yes. Thank you. Resolution 2023-60, approving participation with the state of New Jersey federal grant program administered by the Division of Criminal Justice Department 1. Public safety is the grant program we apply regularly for life safety equipment for our police department. Can I have a motion, please?
Tilly Love.
Long second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Engelhardt,
yes,
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
yes,
Ms. Rossetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-61, refunding temporary food concession permit fee for Tia B's Street Tacos LLC. Can I have a motion, please?
Tilly move.
For a second,
Engelhardt seconds.
any discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti.
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-62, appointment of Van Cleef Engineer as the Flemington Special Projects Engineer 2023. This is a bridge resolution. It allows Van Cleef, who is the planning board engineer, to inspect planning board approved projects, which they are more familiar with than our civil engineer, Remington Vernick. Can I have a motion, please?
Engelhardt moves.
Tilly a second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say on behalf of the planning board, this contract had gone into effect about a year and a half ago when there was a transition with the town attorney. And the planning board in particular was thrilled that we had this opportunity to shift this work to the planning board engineer, specifically because the planning board engineer is much more intimately familiar with all of the discussions that go on that creates our resolution. So for him to be the one that actually does the inspections out on site, he can much better kind of communicate what the spirit of our resolution meant and what those conversations were like than the borough engineer. So we really appreciate this from the on behalf of the planning board.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I just say that, so the contract is necessary because there are two escrows. There's an escrow during the planning board process, and then there's an escrow after the planning board process, for which planning board can't be part of. So the same engineer using two different funds.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, we're moving into work session. It's getting late, folks. We got a long way to go tonight, so. So we have two things on the work session tonight, the municipal planner and the planning board planner, who are partners. Jim Kyle and Beth McManus are here, as is Robin Lapidus, at our invitation to discuss changing the zoning on Main Street per a recommendation in the 2015 master plan. Having said that, the planning board is doing a review of all recommendations that are out there languishing that they made in various stages of the master plan. This one, I think, is very important to start working on now, because things, as Robin just indicated, are really happening in town. And as businesses are coming and going, we want to make sure we have the economy of scale, in my personal opinion, of having a more robust retail restaurant Main Street area, which the planning board master plan from 2015 does recommend. Anybody who is there currently, if they do not fit those categories, would be grandfathered until they voluntarily move or sell their property. But I asked Jim and Beth and Robin to come in and just talk about this. The ordinance would come from the planning board to us. So Kara Kaczynski, the planning board attorney, would write that ordinance on behalf of the planning board to us for introduction. But to get in front of this now, the sooner the better, so that we can start allowing Main Street to enjoy a larger community of contiguous retail. Robin, do you want to talk about this? Jim, Beth, who wants to jump in? So Jim Kyle is the borough planner. He is partners with Beth McManus, the planning board planner, and Robin Lapidus is the executive director of the Flemington Partnership. I'm sorry, Flemington Community Partnership.
Thank you.
Mr. Word there.
Okay, great, thanks.
Jim has got the bad seat.
That's all right.
You're gonna be on the floor in that seat.
Perfect.
Okay, welcome.
Good evening.
You want to just give us a brief overview, and then like the council can make a decision whether or not they want to immediately ask the planning board and attorney to start working on something for them. Go for it.
I'll start. Go ahead.
So as the introduction, yep, sure. Sorry about that.
No,
Definitely is.
no, that one's not on.
So as was discussed at the introduction, this is a recommendation that has been in place for many years. It was, I think, first put in place in the 2015 master plan reexamination report, and then that was carried forward in the 2022 land use element that was just recently adopted. And specifically, what it really calls for is inactive uses, which I think most prominently are offices, are no longer appropriate and desired for the downtown. You know, if you think about the DB district along Main Street, what the borough is really seeking, and what we seem to have as an option these days are more active uses like retail and restaurant uses. And so this ordinance is really, if it were adopted, the intention is that it would clear the way for these more active and desirable uses to be able to take hold on the ground floor along Main Street and other parts of the downtown. This is not about prohibiting office uses generally from the borough, but really about trying to adjust where it is that they're permitted and also encouraged in the borough.
Rob, you want to say anything?
I think this is definitely in keeping with some of the things that when we've done community consensus work, the consensus is everyone wants active streetscapes and sidewalks and first floor uses. And that is universal. That's the one thing that everyone here agrees on. So I think this really is in keeping with the Stantec report and the new revised master plan, and it just seems like a no-brainer.
One of the things that I hear all the time is, why can't Flemington be like Clinton? Why can't Flemington be like Somerville? Why can't Flemington be like Lampville? All those places did this years ago, including Frenchtown, and changed to retail like this years and years and years ago. And Flemington just hasn't. I'm going to turn this over to the council for questions. Ms. Rossetti, do you have any questions? You're not go off.
Oh, no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Engelhardt?
No questions. I guess my question would be, could you, Beth, please explain a little bit about some of the planning board's discussion on secondary uses on the first floor, specifically in secondary buildings or in the back of buildings, residential in particular. We did have I want to make it clear what the planning board's intention was with some of that, not necessarily because we have some kind of unique situations with deep parcels and secondary buildings in the back. We're not necessarily eliminating all of those options, specifically because we've had many variance requests for specifically that. Could you kind of go into that a little bit? Because I want to warn the council that may be part of the ordinance.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So what Ms. Engelhardt is referring to is another recommendation in the master plan where there was a recommendation to adjust the permitted uses again in the downtown, but pertaining to residential uses. So right now, the DB district, for example, only permits residential uses on upper floors. And that's something that you commonly see in downtowns in order to encourage this mix of uses. But what we have seen here in the borough in one particular application I can think of in years past and in other potential circumstances is situations where first floor residential use may be able to be accommodated in order to make full use of the building, but doing so without disrupting that active first floor use. So without disrupting that most desirable, say, retail and restaurant use, there may be opportunities to do residential uses on the first floor, but specifically I'm thinking in locations that perhaps have side entrances or perhaps rear entrances. If you think about an instance where there could be a parking lot, perhaps to the side or the rear of the building, that might be an opportunity to incorporate some portion of residential development, but doing so without incorporating residential development along, say, Main
Can
Street.
you give an example of like a location that we can think of that?
Too recently.
The example I always think of is actually right at the corner of mine in Maine. there at the new bakery that's right
Yeah.
there around the back, there's
Right.
along Main Street, there's a small parking lot accessible from Main Street. And there's actually a residence that was approved back there via a D variance, a use variance. So the applicant came in, made a successful application before the Board of Adjustment and was able to present proofs and ultimately convince the planning board that this was an idea that made sense. We were able to incorporate the mix of uses and do so without disrupting what folks anticipate and want to see along Main Street, which is that active use.
Okay. All right.
And so some of the thinking was, I'm sorry,
No, go.
was perhaps this idea with residential development might also be applicable to office development. It's a use that we want to still encourage in the borough, but we want to make sure it's in the right locations, and on the upper stories is definitely the right location. There may be other good locations on the first floor, but there have to be certain site conditions in place. And that's precisely what the council could consider if you like. You could simply relegate the use to upper stories, or you could allow for the office to be on the first floor as well, perhaps as a conditional use, or to put other standards in place to make sure that it was done appropriately and consistent with the intention of the ordinance.
I think it's important to note that just to piggyback on what Beth said, that over the years, we're never hesitant about providing a D variance or for specific conditions. And when you're dealing with a 1 square mile, relatively dense town, all of as you all know, sometimes you'll go to somebody's house or somebody's property and you don't realize how deep and long and skinny a lot of properties are. So there's a lot of, and then of course, there's a lot of old carriage houses that have been converted in behind everybody's places. You know, everybody's aware of these things in our town. And a lot of those end up having to force the applicants to have variances, where we are kind of thinking ahead as to how some of those secondary buildings and deep buildings, deep lots are affected. This ordinance can kind of cover that as well. So it's important not to necessarily close our mind to any type of first floor office or residential. We just need to make sure that the ordinance is written so that it's not hurting the actual frontages on Main Street. The next question I'd like to ask you guys is, could you describe, because we went into a lot of detail when we did the master plan last year, we spent from February to December on it. There was a lot of other ideas for active uses in addition to restaurants and retail, and I just want maybe to kind of give everybody's mind kind of open up a little bit, and could you describe some of the other things that are active uses, and more importantly, what the SIC code is, and kind of explain that to the layman that might not know what that is, because there's a double question.
Yeah, so there's two issues here. So there are a couple of recommendations that were just referenced in the master plan. The first one is in reference to those SIC codes. It's really to fundamentally change the structure of permitted uses in the borough. Many years ago, the borough adopted a method of identifying and defining permitted uses based on their SIC codes. They're essentially industrial classifications that are not particularly used anymore, and in retrospect don't make a lot of sense for municipality that is subject to evolution. Like every town is, new uses become available. If you think about some very old ordinances, and I'm not sure this is specific to Flemington, but I've seen towns that permit, say, a defined electronics repair shop that is specific to, say, record players and tape players and things like that, but literally do not permit something like a computer repair shop. So updating the SIC codes would eliminate the outdated uses, and it would also provide for more flexibility in our ordinances. So that's one recommendation. But the other recommendation in regard to active uses, regardless of whether it's through SIC or a newly defined structure, the recommendation was to add additional active uses that are becoming more desirable in downtown. Some of the recommendations set forth in the master plan include theaters, including stage and movie theaters, fitness-oriented uses, thinking about yoga, Pilates, etc., and personal services. And so those are some additional active uses that were recommended for the downtown.
Great. And my final question, I know my councilmen are getting sick of me, is, could you please describe, can you please, kind of describe how we, as our borough, is slightly different than, let's say, Clinton's very kind of condensed 2-block Main Street, and let's say Somerville's very extended street that, with a lot more population. Could you explain the rule of thumb of quarter mile and, you know, how important that is to planning, and more importantly, how any of the buildings along Main Street in the DB zone that's outside of that quarter mile that are either former or still independent single and multifamily homes that maybe were like kind of almost mansions back in the day, how the first floor rule may negatively affect them and how we need to be sensitive to that. Can you kind of explain that a little bit better than I just did?
Sure. So there's a planning principle that a lot of folks refer to that references a quarter-mile walk, and it's generally referred to as a distance that folks are comfortable walking and shopping along downtown. And what it really speaks to is a concentration of active, desirable uses. If you think about when you want to go shopping in a downtown, you don't necessarily you want to be walking. You do want to be walking past active and interesting shops as much as possible, so that you're constantly wanting to get to the next shop and say, rather than saying, you know, I don't feel like walking past that boring block. I'll just turn around and go home at this point. And so one of the things that we've talked about in our master plan documents, beginning in 2015, is this concept of trying to concentrate our active uses so that we do have this active, engaging, interesting core that is available for residents to enjoy, but also can help serve as a destination. And so we started looking at that along for the Main Street. Also, if you think about another core along Stangl Road. And so these are really two existing concentrations that we can continue to build upon. And it's important, I think, to your point in regard to the many historic homes, it's important that we think about this, yes, this concentration, but also try to be sensitive to these either existing or former residential uses that may be occupied as offices already, or perhaps are particularly appropriate for offices. And so as the council considers that, I think some of that sensitivity can come from just the fact of the municipal land use law, that simply changing the zoning does not require any business be evicted. As was said at the introduction, if you have an existing office in a location where that first floor office is going to be illegal, there's no need for you to move, change tenant, change the building. That office can continue there in perpetuity, essentially. And so that's, I think, one really important relief valve, so to speak, for existing businesses.
So this goes from, it's like Church Street to the Monument, or is it Church Street to Kapner? What's the?
For the DB district?
Yeah, to do this, to make this, the retail downstairs.
It generally goes up to the Monument, and I don't think it
Doesn't go as far as
Church
Church.
Street.
It goes basically to
Williams?
the yellow building.
So right around Central
Yeah, like
Avenue.
Dolce.
Right around,
Yeah,
right around, I'm not
it-
Central.
It avoids the church on Church Street,
Okay,
but it otherwise goes down to that intersection.
okay,
Because that's more than a quarter mile and you start losing people and when you
Right.
start spreading it out too much. And I think that's the thing we need to focus on, is that that's different than like a Clinton that's a little more dense with the retail.
Yeah, absolutely.
okay. Mr. Parker, do you have any questions?
No, okay.
Mr. Council President?
Yeah, I got a question. Just sitting here thinking, so we do this, let's say we move on this. My question is, and this is for any of the three of you. I hear a lot of people say, hey, you got some empty stores down there. Is there any connection between this and getting those filled? That's the overwhelming question.
I like to say that we have a bench now of people who want to open businesses in Flemington and largely on Main Street. What we don't have is really enough turnkey property. Meaning, you know, you want to open a restaurant, there are very few places that are up to code, properly vented, you know, ready to go. You walk in and, you know, bring your pots and pans and you're open for business. I think people would be hard pressed to think of one space on Main Street or even, you know, going down to Turntable to staying. We don't have that kind of space. So it is important that whatever we do, that we're also enforcing, you know, business codes and that buildings, that we're encouraging and maybe incentivizing property owners to maintain their properties and to lease and rent them to tenants who want to move in. We really are going to have one of those downtowns where we're gonna have a lot of new stuff and then a lot of old inventory that's not rentable.
One of the problems, Robin, and this is actually a question, is that we have landlords that want to charge Class A rent, but they also then expect their new tenants to fix up their buildings, so they want it both ways, and they really
That's
can't,
exactly right.
they really gotta pick,
That's exactly right.
right? Is that really, that's a problem in town?
We actually ran into that problem with a business owner that was coming in, and that's exactly what happened. Is that the landlord was not sensitive and.
Not realistic.
Exactly, and the person ended up, I mean, it was a little touch and go there for a minute. So, I mean, we got over it, but it was touch and go, but that's exactly right. What Robin is saying is, and it kind of depends on the business, right? So if it's a restaurant, that's a whole different ballgame. I mean, you know, I've been in the restaurant business and that's a whole different ballgame. Rather than a retail shop, which is maybe not as extensive, but there's still a lot of work to be done just to even get it up to code with fire and things like that. So, yeah, that is, and I think I mean, still your thunder, but I think the real challenge is how do we incentivize businesses to come and offset some of that cost, and I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but that's just a food for thought to throw it out there.
And we're very blessed with trends that are really, you know, the American dream of you can rent in Flemington, you know, like Viva Mexico, like Norma from Echelon, make enough money to buy a building that you fix up yourself, which both of them did. No one, I can't even tell you how many people looked at the Orvieto space and would never have been able to invest the time, the money, the energy to make that a working space. So you have to have this kind of, you know, crazy desire to invest in this community that not everybody has.
Council President, did she answer your question?
I believe so.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
I haven't gotten you yet. Julie, any questions?
I do. So I guess maybe I don't have a clear definition of what active use is, so I just say like we've got salons and barber shops on Main Street. Is that considered active use? Okay. I know there's massage, you had mentioned yoga. But then we also have like dentist and the dermatologist. Is that active use as well, or?
I in other towns and municipalities where I worked, we do really like the term, you know, mixed use activity, active ground floor uses, because the definition for retail really varies. Generally, retail is you walk in and you pay for something and you leave with something that could be a haircut or it could be a dermatology appointment, but generally you want lots of people walking in at the same time. So active, I think, really speaks more to the number of people who come in, you know, at any one time, as opposed to what the active use is.
It's like
Obviously the Chamber of Commerce is also on Main Street. Cause they're not gonna be considered active use, but I can't imagine them leaving because.
Well, with their new executive education building, that's really meant to be multi-purpose and for meetings and it is really active now.
Insurance, we have some people that provide insurance.
We would love to see them if they would be interested in a nice space on the second floor. We will have plenty, we're not gonna have, we have no shortage of appropriate spaces on upper floors. And we do have some historic buildings that have been beautifully outfitted to have lawyers' offices and title searches on the first floor. They don't have to go, it's just.
Second floor.
Yes, but they could stay on the first floor. with
No, I think
this.
that's
They're
what
not-
you need, that some of the
They're
bigger
being
historic buildings.
grandfathered in, it's just encouraging a turnover. So that when you drive up and down Main Street, you feel active. There's a street life, there's a street culture, because people are coming in and out of businesses, which you don't currently see.
But then this does allow the way for, we could have 4 more grocery stores on Main Street where we already have 2 now. That only have 4 doors between them. Like I would have loved to somehow see the other grocery store open up on the other end of Main Street. To give a little more distance between the 2 of them. Who is gonna make the determination on if, or whether or not the SIC codes are gonna be used to determine this?
It's gonna come from the planning board's resolution. They're
That was, okay. Is there any way that we can get a list of what the SIC
Yeah,
codes
that's
are?
a very good question.
It's huge,
And-
it's huge.
I can provide.
Which is so you understand. On Main Street.
So I can provide, if the council would like, I can provide a link to the website that organizes the SIC codes and also provides definitions. But I do want to be clear that I think this is true. None of the new uses that have been added to the borough code in at least 5 years have relied on those SIC codes. We've already started to make a turn towards what I might say, normal land use definitions. And I would encourage that any future ordinances do the same.
They're really outdated and we really hate them in
Okay,
general.
well, that's.
As planners.
Nobody likes the SIC codes, why would we consider that as a determination?
But your point is well taken, just to give you an idea of what the SIC codes are, whether you use them or not, but this is what they are, and this is what it means. Because the SIC codes are, I mean, it's a huge type, but when I was learning SIC codes, that was one thing you can also just give some examples, and then even if it's just a couple of sheets, just so that
You'll be sick of
everybody
it.
knows.
We are.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question
Yeah.
for,
I'm going around.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Humphrey, you have any
Going around
questions?
again.
Parking. You have to change parking, right? If you're gonna have, you're looking, well, I just want to ask, if you're looking to have more churn from people coming in, are you going to change the nature of the parking on Main Street, which has limited capacity?
So there's no need to change the ordinance from the perspective of just simply how parking is regulated. We have parking requirements for use regardless of where it's located in a particular building. So this doesn't necessitate that change. But if your question is, what is the impact going to be on the downtown as we have potentially new active uses entering first floor? That's something that I haven't had a chance to take a look at, and I think the council will need to determine whether it wants to adjust parking standards.
Well, I think we
accordingly, but-
definitely need better signage to point people to the municipal and the county parking lots.
I think that's
Sure.
There's also,
There is
the
kinds of parking back,
And one
what
of the-
people do about it.
retail counts on churn. So does parking for them, so.
Right, one of the things that we hear from, I've heard a number of times in this borough over the years is that it's not that we have a parking problem, is that we have a parking sign problem. And so I think to the mayor's point that we need improved signage, that would certainly assist. And there may be some other parking enforcement and other measures that could be taken that would not quite rise to the level of amending ordinances.
Back in the day, At Flemington's heyday in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, before the malls were built, every storefront was a storefront, and there was nowhere else to shop in Hunterdon County but Main Street in Flemington. And it was you could, like, parking was always backed up and stopped, and people were always, every municipal parking lot and the county parking lot was always full, and it was a great thing. So what was the problem then should be a problem again, right? And then they'll also probably be some paid parking with the hotel project as well.
Yeah, I think the thing that you're pointing to is, we've seen a lot of developed communities now get rid of parking requirements in their central business districts. Like if you look at Lambertville, town of Clinton, in the C1 does not have a parking requirement. Because the issue is you'll have people coming in for site plan approval and everybody's gonna need a parking variance. This was the case in Lambertville. Every application needed a parking variance. And finally, when you look around, if there's nothing you can really do about it, the answer is to change that standard so that you don't have that situation happen.
Exactly, Lois, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, we did. Churn, I think retail requires a a sense of activity. That people are willing to park 3 blocks away if there's a street full of other people eating, walking, talking to each other, having at a meeting spot. I think unfortunately, our businesses are really used to and expect that people will pull up right in front of their store and park in front of their store. And if there's 4 spots and those 4 spots are taken, they don't really believe that people will park 3 blocks away and walk. And part of that is because we just don't have an active street life. So people are less interested in walking up, strolling around. So I think it's a high quality problem that will actually benefit us. That if the streets are more, if there's more cars parked, more people will be walking on our streets and more people will want to park further and get out of their cars and walk
This
too.
is a lot on our agenda. I want to really expedite this. Do you really have another question?
Yeah, I do really
Okay.
have another
Okay.
question. It's for Robin. Is the problem with the landlords versus the fit outs cost? Doesn't that ebb and flow as the economy ebbs and flows? And from what my experience just with like my husband negotiating his lease for his office space, what the landlords are willing to do is dependent on the market, isn't it? Doesn't that change as it's negotiated based on the market?
Actually, I think it's about investment and who's willing to,
That's what I know. It sometimes comes from one side, sometimes from the other, and sometimes both, no? Or is that not always
I
the
think
case?
it would be really great for us to help our landlords make their properties more turnkey and ready to go because otherwise we're just, it's really just too difficult for the right tenant to, meet the right
Got
landlord
it.
and have the space magically become viable. It's really complicated.
Particularly for a new business owner. Because they've already gotten the investment that they're gonna get, and now they're just surprised.
I was just curious what the market is calling for right now.
So
Thank you.
is there a consensus to have the planning board attorney start to draft something for consideration? And perhaps at some point bring it to us as a draft to look at and discuss again?
Well, I just have a question. Wouldn't this also be something that we're reviewing simultaneously as the subcommittee of that we're, we created a subcommittee.
I think the council overrides that subcommittee. If the council wants to move this forward because we don't want to wait. Get
Right,
something
but
rolling.
Do you think that the subcommittee should help with that development or no?
I'll leave that to Beth because that chairs the subcommittee.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good idea.
So yes, okay, so, all
I-
right, so we'll do that and communicate that tomorrow night to the planning board. To have the attorney start to work on the draft and then at some point, as soon as possible, we'll bring it back here for a discussion way before it is ready for introduction. So thank you, Robin, thank you for staying for that. I'm gonna wait on questions until we get to the public comment section. Again, Ms. Stewart. So the second thing on the work session, again, we have a major executive session tonight, regards the designation, and Beth and Jim are staying up here for that one. On the center designation, the council last year started moving the center designation. The state of New Jersey made Flemington without us asking a quote center, and promised all kinds of goodies and whatever. We never got anything out of that. And then they changed their rules and said, now if you want to be a center, you gotta apply and fill out this major application, which Beth McManus on behalf of the planning board and the borough has been working on. And she got to a point where there were new actions that needed to be taken, and I became mayor and started questioning the state about what was really in it for us, and Beth started questioning the state as well. And Jim has been questioning, everybody's been questioning the state, what's really in it? Because at this point, the state has indicated that there are a number of additional tasks to be done. Jim and I had a conversation and indicated that it could cost as much as another $30,000 to do them. And that the bang for the buck ain't there. I am turning this over to Jim and Beth to discuss this with you all, because as Jim said to me, we don't have to finish it this year, we can do it next year. If money's tight, which it is. That it is not something that necessarily has to be done just because the state says so. I mean, if the state thinks that we should be a center, then they should just, by Jove, keep us as a center. That's my opinion. But go ahead, Beth, and
Can I just?
sure. Yes, of course. Of course. You want to take a break for 2 minutes? Should we take a 5-minute break? Okay, and sorry. I said it's a whole agenda to I'm glad you just said that. I'm so glad. Liz, all right, this is good. Okay, so turning this over to the two of you to talk about the center stuff and answer any questions of the council.
So this is an issue that a lot of communities have faced, but our office does a lot of work with communities in the Highlands, and the Highlands Council always gives us the money to do all this. Unfortunately, with the state, it's not what happens. So when you look, I think when you look at the costs that we're going to incur for what is admittedly probably very little benefit, and it's not as though all of a sudden you're a center and a bunch of money starts flowing in from the state. They give you additional points on certain applications for grants. You might get 2 points on a DOT application because you're a center. There are a number of programs that, you know, we could take advantage of with it, but it's not a promise of money. So I think really the issue is one of timing. I know that as the mayor and I talked last week, it's, you know, the budget's going to be tight. So to come up with another potentially $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to complete these tasks with, you know, really no immediate benefit. The problem is too, the bar sometimes moves. You know, it could be, well, here are your 12 things you have to do, but maybe in a year maybe there's 2 or 3 more things, you know. It kind of changes here and there every once in a while. So I think the overall benefit versus the cost is really what we're talking about right now. And again, we can always come back to this, you know, in the future, a year or 2 years from now. Gosh, we've been talking about this since what, 2010?
Or 10, yeah, doesn't make sense.
Right. I mean, here we are 12 years later, still working on it. So I think overall, you know, this is just our opinion, and Beth and I talked about this tonight, just so we're on the same page, but for where we are at right now versus the cost that we're gonna have to incur, it probably doesn't make sense to continue, but we can just hit the pause button. We have all the work that Beth really has done over the last, you know, couple of years that we can hold on to and pick it back up if we choose.
Which is what I would recommend. I think that's fair. You think it's fair?
Yeah, I just want to mention, is there something that we can do? You know, look, the state master plan, when it was created, designated us as a center. No kidding, we're the donut hole. I mean, it was pretty obvious, right? I think the problem with this whole process with the state master plan is that all of a sudden they decided, well, he called you a center, but now you have to prove it over and over and over again.
Right.
It's not like any place in the state is less center than it was when it was first designated. We were the center designation for the entire county. No kidding. I mean, as they say, no shit, Sherlock, we're the, you know, we're the, well, yeah, it's okay. We're, you know, we're the county seat. So I guess what I would like to see happen before we just shelve this, because I agree, I think it should be paused, because I don't believe there's any financial benefit to it. But I do think that we should, in some way, shape or form, as a council and as a planning board, because it kind of relates to both. I think we both organizations should at least write some sort of letter of concern to whomever in the state.
We,
do
Beth and
that.
I have been doing that for the last 2 weeks.
Council as a planning board and say, look, the state needs to reevaluate this center designation. In that anybody that, just to encourage, maybe write it with the to the League of Municipalities too, because frankly, they could be helping us lobby for this. Anybody that was declared a center 12 years ago shouldn't have to go through these hoops. And I think at least we should, in order to close out this process before we put it on the shelf for a year, I think we should.
Would you explore that with the league?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I just, maybe they're already working on it. So I just think at least we should go on record that, hey, I think this is something worthwhile for at least.
I think exploring that with the league is a really good idea.
We're not the only municipality that's going to.
Correct, and has to do all this, so, okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Anything else? So they have their direction to do nothing, and Susan has direction to do something. So hearing that, we're gonna go to public comment session number 2. We're gonna pay bills and we're gonna take another 5-minute break and we're gonna have an executive session. It's gonna last at least an hour. So, put on the coffee. Okay. Public comment number 2, anybody from the public come up, I just need your name again, you spoke once before for the record, and what municipality you're with, Mr. Renz.
Bill Renz, I mean, I give you guys a lot of credit for what you're going through. It's not easy. The speaker that was just here a second ago, I have to partially disagree with something she said about it being more of a sign issue. I guess you're talking about the incentives and as opposed to a parking issue. Flemington has had a major parking problem. And my concern is you're financially strapped right now, let's just say. Wouldn't it be better to do, and I don't know if it costs money, I'm just not sure, to get a study done with what's coming up, or you may already know this, I don't know, with the new construction that will eventually finish on whatever date it's gonna finish, how many parking spaces there's gonna be. The biggest problem is this town is literally filled, and you start packing this town with a lot of stores, which I don't disagree with. I think that's a great idea what they're talking about. They're basically talking about incentivizing the customers to come to Flemington. You and I know that, we've had it years ago. We knew when your dad's store was there, we were all going there. And we could walk there, but without the parking spots, which the county was not there at the time. People are still a little lazy when it comes to parking. They want to park on the main drag. Somerville, you referred to Somerville, well, they have a wide street. Parking goes forever and they will walk the distance. Here, we're restricted. Maybe somebody should consider, I don't know which council member or which group would do that. Maybe before investing any money with a lawyer to set all this in motion, which I have to agree with Council Member Engelhardt, let's get it rolling. But let's not spend the money right away. Get a study done for the parking design and what you're gonna have to benefit what they're presenting.
There's been some parking studies done, but there really is a ton of parking in this town. People back in the day, people knew where those parking lots were and would drive behind La Hawkes and park there and walk Main Street. Nobody remembers that now because Main Street's been so dead for so long, they're spoiled rotten.
Right.
Because they know they can park on Main Street, so they're not even aware that there are parking lots all over this town. So the signage will help remind them of that, and Flemington will be so enticing, they're gonna go look and then they'll walk.
But some of these stores that are closed, isn't there a consideration that, well, maybe somebody make that one store disappear and just make it a big additional parking lot on top of what we're getting?
Oh, I don't wanna lose any rate.
I know the taxes, I don't understand. I guess it's.
It's parking, like there's the massive lot on Park Avenue. It's one half of the block up on Capner to Main Street. I mean, there's tons of parking in this town. You just have to show people where it is and give them a reason to park there and walk.
Good luck.
Thank you, that's my job. Miss Stewart.
Lois Stewart, Lincoln Borough. There's lots of parking. I don't know how many times I've walked around this town counting. Always room for cars, always. But we have to, because the project is taking away the parking that has been available between Main and Spring. We have to do something with the county so that
I
they
know, it's on my list. The
Okay,
county parking lot by Mikasa, it's on my list.
if we cannot let them.
Robin put it on my list
Well,
like a month ago, it's on my list.
we can't let them be nasty
They
to us,
target
which is what
tonight.
they
We need parking on the mid-south edge of town. I mean, we need.
Well, that's not, yeah, but I mean, no, I mean the one by Red Vanilla.
That's what I'm trying, that's what I said, Mikasa.
Okay, okay, but also
Yeah.
that big lot that they have down there that you talked about, Park Avenue. That's practically empty.
Right.
And so you've got to get the county.
And it's always empty after 4 PM, no matter what, and weekends, always, because it's for the courts.
So the county is. You're Republican, they're Republican. Whip them into shape.
Okay, it's how to win friends and influence people. I'm a lover, not a whipper. So,
Here,
okay,
we need to have access.
here's a
to
quote in the paper.
the-
Do not use that as a headline. Of course, it sounds better than if I said I was a whip, no.
Put them into shape. That's what we need.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna go on YouTube.
Yeah, sorry about that. You didn't ask me to pause.
No, but I did want to file, so I got that.
But I wanted to comment before Bill talked about the parking. I wasn't gonna discuss the parking particularly. But I do want to discuss the Main Street lower first floor stuff. When you're discussing this and formulating a new ordinance about what's gonna be permitted and what's not going to be permitted, I beg you, I mean, I can get down on my knees if you want, to protect the historic integrity of the exterior of the buildings. You cannot let them do what's being done in this project, where they're going to bastardize the bank building to make it, they're gonna rip down, put retail things on the side of the bank building, even though the state historic preservation office said you have to maintain the integrity of the exterior of the building.
I think personally, I think you're right about that. And look, we're gonna get a draft in here long before it's introduced and it'll get discussed publicly and, you know. we
It
can-
doesn't matter,
we can make
after,
sure-
after in past experiences before this administration. Once the pencil has gone to the paper, doesn't matter what the public says.
Well,
And that's why I'm asking you now to make sure when this is written, that you put in about protect, we're the second largest historic district in the state of New Jersey after Cape May. Are we gonna continue to let them rip it down and throw it away?
Beth, let's make sure at the planning board level that gets be protected, because you're right. I mean, history is tourism. It's a big tourist industry and
And so we've got to.
I
Not
know,
look
I
at
know
the
that
money,
Ms. Engelhardt and Mr. Parker agree about history and tourism for sure. We know that, so.
we can't look at the profits and the financial well-being of the people that want to come here and run their building, their business. We have to look at the integrity and well-being of the community. And I'm just begging you to do that. And then the access to the upper floors. I'm concerned about that. Certainly, we need to keep the dentists and the dermatologists and those people on the first floor. These old people, unless you have some requirement, if they're gonna be upstairs, they have to put in an elevator. There are some old people that just can't do flights of steps. So are you gonna drive those old people out to businesses in Rutland Township where they can be on the first floor?
Nobody's forcing anybody out of any businesses.
But even when this doctor retires because of old. And then you're gonna say they can't. A new person that can't come in there, I don't think that's right, because old people, and I am one now. You have to have access to services that old people need. And so I really, and old people do have money, so you want to attract them to the town, so they'll spend their money in other places. So don't be, forcing older people to go to Raritan Township for certain services, because we don't have them on the first floor where people can access them.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else, public comments? If not, is there somebody out there?
I forgot.
Somebody has a hand up? Somebody has a hand up? I can't see that. Somebody has a hand up.
Jonathan.
Yeah. John, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Your name and your municipality.
Sure, Jonathan Goldrath, the CSO of Aunt Mary's Dispensary, based in Flemington at the shops. I just want to take the time to thank all of you, council, mayor, the planning board for your support. And we had a great grand opening on this Saturday. Thanks for those of you who were able to make it. I also just want to say, myself and my team are here to be a resource for you guys as you think about regulated and legal cannabis in your community. We all and our hired professionals have decades of collective experience, specifically with regard to New Jersey and statute and regulations, but also the industry in general. Outside, we've experienced in a few other states, and we've seen what works and what doesn't. And I think you guys are doing a great job in thinking about this thoughtfully and sustainably in the context of building a thriving community. And we see that here in all other facets of what you're working on and building Flemington. And I also just invite you to be active with me and the team and letting us know how we can be the outstanding corporate citizen that we really strive to be. Happy to discuss any questions you guys might have here or any other time. We'll make ourselves available. And really, I just want to thank you on behalf of our executive team, but also, and most importantly, all the patients in Hunterdon County and Flemington in particular. We had a number of people over the last few weeks who've come to us and told us stories of driving, over an hour to get medicine previously, and it's been a big help, and it's much appreciated. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Okay, anybody else from the public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, seeing none, payment of bills, can I have a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $9,912,300.21? Second,
Seconds.
roll call, please.
Ms. Engelhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti?
Yes.
Thank you.
And here, see ya.
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Tilly?
Yes.
Yeah, pass.
And we're moving into an executive session regarding resolution 2023-67. Executive session to discuss potential RDA amendments for Liberty Village. We'll take a couple of minute recess while the public leaves, and invited to stay
We need a motion.
our planner, Jim Kyle, Beth McManus, and our attorney from Buck Walrath, Chris Walrath is here, as well as our professional staff. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Long move.
Billy, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll take a couple minute break while they leave.
Michael, on the revised agenda, it says 2023-65. It doesn't say 67.
Favor.
Billy, I'll move.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, somebody has to tell me who just did the last.
Tilly made, he seconded both.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Chris.
so-
Good to see you.
Good.
Thank you.
So then we'll see you in the morning tomorrow.
10 o'clock. Right. No.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Okay.
Good night, drive safely, Chris, man, you got an hour and a half drive back?
We're just no traffic now, like an hour and 15.
Where do you live?
In near Red Bank.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, you got a little bit of a drive.
See you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. Sure.
Okay,
Hey, Kim.
back to Rumba.
Yeah, we're gonna have the, I can't.
No, I know. I just want to tell you what you need to think about.
This was fine. Done and
You guys, we need to talk about this.
yeah, no, it was fine, yeah.
I don't want.
But I do agree, reading it and.
I don't want to ever have not fully 100%. And it's really super important to me. I just think it's better government, even if we don't agree on stuff. But like I said, I want them to tell the truth. I don't care if they don't agree with me. Tell the truth. Tell how you guys see it. That's what matters to me.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid. I'm not a bully. I'm not. So I just want it out. So we can all make the right decision, and this feels so much better to me. Like, if I actually go to sleep tonight, I'm gonna sleep well, because I just feel like,
Yeah, no.
I think I think everybody sounds like